Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full Throttle, the Octane Rocket League talk show, where we bring you guys all the information about what happened in the past week of Rocket League and the upcoming week of Rocket League. We've been having a bit of technical difficulties with B Shadow's camera, so if he suddenly disappears from us like Houdini, that's going to be the explanation for that, and we might have to make some adjustments. Just want to get that out of the way. But we do need to also introduce everyone who's on the show week after week. And we're going to start off with Dexy. How you doing, Dexy?
I'm doing good.
That's good. That's good. How about you, Shadow? I just saw the fix you made.
I'm just gonna hope that whenever my camera drops out, it's freezing at a good face.
It did. I'm sorry. I gotta calm it down. It was just frozen with you putting a thumbs up.
Nice.
Okay,
that's just what I want.
And then we have Sluck. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Ready
That's
to talk
good,
about
that's
some
good.
RLCS.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about. We brushed over it a little bit last week, but this week is going to be happening for the first time of the season, obviously, of this year. It's going to be the RLCS promotion relegation tournaments for both Europe and North America. We're going to start off with Europe just for those of you who might be in those time zones and be up a little bit late trying to tune in and see what we have, what insight we think is going to happen with the European promotion tournament. Any thoughts about that before we get into it? The Excel, Servette, Fnatic, Secret. Anyone want to just throw out a prediction right out of their hat?
Secret.
Secret.
I think Secret's a very strong team, and I think they'll make it because Tylacto is a god. That's my expert analysis. But
We were not paid to say this.
Yeah,
but
he's not behind my green screen threatening us to tell everyone that Secret's gonna win.
we saw they dominated pretty much the rival series, except that 1 week where they didn't do too good. But that was because of illness. You know, they had a lot of issues with like Flame having tonsillitis or something like that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. And Tylacto was
also
feeling
Tylacto.
terrible. Yeah. But other than that, like the first week they dominated. They started off 6-0, and then they kept doing pretty strong, and they secured the first seed. Going into the promotion tournament, that means they get to play against their rivals, Fnatic, for the third time in a row in a RLCS promotion tournament, because
it's gonna be crazy.
they knocked them out in the Season 4 play-ins. Then in the Season 5 promotion tournament, they lost to Fnatic, and now they're going to try to make it back to the
Yes.
RLCS by
The fabled
Beating Fnatic.
3-season best of 3 rivalry. So, it'll be the ultimate decider to who's the better team. Although, to be fair, I do think Secret should easily take that match and eventually even make it to RLCS. But I think overall, regardless, it's going to be even closer than we might expect because Fnatic is still a good team, even though they're not doing so hot lately. Excel always has that like spark that could just appear at any moment, and we saw it, especially on their very first match versus PSG, where they took the series. And even Servette has really capable players who definitely could show up when it counts on promotions. So even though I think Secret is the team that has the better chances of every single team there, I think the second spot, assuming Secret goes in, is very much up in the air. If I had to predict, though, I would choose Excel, though. I think that spark will show up on promotion day, and they will just sneak it through. Maybe even win versus Excel on the winners match, because I think Excel just plays to... How do I put this nicely? Just weirdly,
Too off script, I guess you could say.
Yeah, Secret just likes teams that are more just thoughtful on their play, basically. So that's why I think they'll do very well on their match versus Fnatic, because they're just a very set in stone team. They just don't really break rotations or anything, while Excel is the exact opposite, and they'll struggle against that. So I think in the end they might actually win versus Secret, but even if Secret drops down, I think Secret will win bit versus Servette or Fnatic in the end.
I think that's definitely a possibility. I want to see more out of Servette too, because they were really the team that I'm going to say we were mostly all doubting them to even make it into the top four, and they kind of surprised us. And mailed their way there. What was the team that they were under before they got picked up by Servette? Does anyone
Before they
remember?
were Servette, X-Ray.
X-Ray,
Yeah,
yeah.
they
So
placed top 4 last season. They
they placed
didn't.
top 4 last season.
They weren't able to get a top 2 spot with iGnite on the team, and since then iGnite obviously left and joined Envy, and they picked up Alex, who's an incredible player. And this time
Oh, yeah.
around, they were able to get a top 2 spot. So they've been looking pretty strong, like right behind Servette as like those top 2 teams in the rival series, like by considerable.
You mean right behind Secret?
Yeah, right behind Secret. Right.
They're not right behind themselves.
Yeah, as the top 2 teams in the rival series, and yeah, I think that I mean, like Shadow said, that anyone really has a shot, and they look pretty good. I'd say Secret over everyone, and then the second one, like Shadow said, anyone could get it.
Yeah.
It depends on who's having like the best day.
That's really the thing with these promotion relegation tournaments. It could be just one bad day, and then it costs you your chance at RLCS, or makes it so you drop all the way down to a rival series. So definitely a lot for them to work for. But as you might not have heard of, but we do have an interview with Mummy Snow from Servette that we're going to just play in a moment to see what his thoughts are about the promotion tournament. And it was Papal Express, one of the guys at Octane, who delivered that interview to us.
Yep.
All right, so I'm joined here by Mummy Snow of Servette from the Rocket League Rival Series. How are you doing today, Mummy Snow?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no worries. I'm glad you're doing well. So today I just wanted to talk to you about your performance at the end of this season and your upcoming matches in the promotion tournament, because you guys started off the season very strong. You won your first 3 matches. You slipped up a tiny bit in the middle of the season, so you lost to the Juicy Kids and Aries. But what was your team's morale looking like going into those final 2 matches?
I think one of the main strengths we have is that if we play on stream, we play way better. The match against Aries, we always have trouble against Aries because of their playstyle counters ours. So we knew that was going to be tough. And against Juicy, we just didn't keep our comms up, because it's very important in our team. But overall, our attitudes are always good. We try and analyze and find where we're lacking, and then try and improve on that.
All right. So like going into those final 2 matches though, like how are you guys feeling? Because you knew you had to win both those matches in order to finish top 2. Like, did you prepare for those matches in any particular way?
Against Method, we didn't really prepare that much because it was the day after Aries, so we couldn't really do much other than just take what we had and just reset real quick. And we did that, and we just got a win. And then the last week, or like at Friday, we scrimmed a lot against Secret. That helped us a lot because they're fast, and we knew that Triple Trouble played fast as well. If we just played our game, which we did, we secured our win. And yeah, that's pretty much how it went.
Yeah, because you guys played very well in those last 2 matches. You won 3-0 against Method and then 3-1 against Triple Trouble.
Yes.
But now going forward in the promotion tournament, you guys will be facing Excel, I believe, in the first round. So how confident are you that you can take down Excel?
I don't know. It's a weird team. Like, even in RLCS, they appeared inconsistent, but it's sometimes consistent. Sounds weird. But they beat PSG, and they were looking really, really good. They did challenge some of the RLCS teams. I just think the major factor we have to do against them is that we have to play a bit fast and be careful of Marky with his midfield pressure. Yeah, otherwise we should be fine. I think our strongest opponent in the promotion would be Secret, as usual. I'm pretty confident against Fnatic.
Okay. So if you go up against Fnatic, you don't think you'll have any issues?
No. I think all 3 players in my team are decently fast, and I know that Fnatic are lacking some fastness, if you can say that.
All right, so I'm joined here by Mummy Snow of Servette from the Rocket League Rival Series. How are you doing today, Mummy Snow?
I'm good.
Right.
Sorry, I accidentally switched it, man. We really miss B Dog. We need B Dog. I'm sorry that I cut it off. We'll upload it to YouTube later, and you guys can check it out then.
Obviously, as you guys can tell, we usually have
We
B-Dog
really miss
doing
B
the
Dog.
broadcasting and everything for us, but unfortunately, he couldn't be with us because he had a family situation that was happening. So thoughts out to him and everyone who might be involved with that. But we're still going to get on with the show, as we always do here at Full Throttle. And as we were talking about the promotion tournament and what you could hear a little bit about what Mummy Snow is saying about their matches that are upcoming in this promotion relegation tournament, they're fairly confident against Fnatic. I think they're a little bit iffy against Secret just because of how close those two are kind of throughout the rival series, how close they were and how close the game or the series was that they had. And everyone, I'm pretty sure, is like XL is just like a big question mark. They don't know if they're going to do well or if they're going to do bad against them. Is that kind of the consensus we're coming to with XL?
Sorry. This is terrible production. I don't know why, but Dexy's frozen with his eyes closed, and Bottomless frozen as well. I'm gonna.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on. This is very not good. B-Dog, come back. Alright.
Everything's ruined, guys.
Okay, we're sort of back now. Except B Shadow's Dexy and Dexy's B Shadow. But
it's so funny.
yeah.
Okay. As you guys can tell, this is kind of a more casual
And now
Full
I'm
Throttle
zoomed in.
episode because we don't have B-Dog running the production for us.
Great rotations on chat. Nice, I like that.
NA production, lol. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Back into the
Sit farther back.
promotion tournament. So, any other thoughts you want to talk about the European promotion tournament? Pretty much, we think all around that Team Secret's going to make it in. They're going to win against Fnatic. How many games do we think that series is going to go? They're all best of sevens, correct?
Yep.
Okay, I think that one personally is going to go 4-3. I think it's going to be really close between those two,
I
but
think it'll
Secret will
go-
probably take it.
I say 4-2 Secret. I think it'll be close to.
Okay. Okay. This is actually the funniest show ever. Okay. Shadow, you can continue now.
No, literally that was it. I think it'll be 4-2 for that match.
Oh, okay. So you don't want to go into any in-depth analysis on why it's gonna be 4-2? Why not 4-3?
I think Fnatic. They tend to show up a bit more like when they're really on the edge, right? I mean, they were the former leftovers roster who were just known to reverse sweep left and right. So it's like that they reverse sweep back somewhere else. I think they're just playing. I think they're too weak right now. It's a secret mass. So more easily take series. It'll be somewhat, but not 7 games. Secret take it to you.
Okay.
Slug, hello.
Are you back?
Yes, Discord also decided to crash. Man, today's not our fucking day.
Oh,
What? That's
Okay.
okay.
Oh, sorry guys. We're usually a bit more composed than this. It's just that we're not used to these kind of technical issues happening. Obviously, that's why we're doing Full Throttle, trying to get more experience running talk shows and giving you guys some information about the Rocket League scene. But B Shadow was just delivering his information on what he thought the reasoning was behind the Fnatic and Team Secret matchup being 4-2 in favor.
All right.
Can someone else
I'll
take
just-
it for a second?
Yeah, it's fine. I'll just repeat while he's like, I don't know when Slug exactly crashed, but what I did say is I think it'll be 4-2 to Secret because even though Fnatic has a tendency to turn up at the very last moment, which is pretty much the very last moment promotion, I think they're just not doing as well as they used to. And Secret is doing amazingly in general after a Continuum retired and they got Tigray. So I think it'll be somewhat closer because of Fnatic turning up, but it'll still be a win for Secret, so 4-2 in the end.
Yeah, I definitely think Secret's gonna win regardless. I don't think Fnatic literally has no defense at all. Like Siki, Sadasky, Maestro, they're very offensive heavy players and usually like just putting on the pressure. But as we saw in the RLCS, they literally have not like their defense isn't really existent, and I think they gave up like the most shots and goals per game of any team. And I think the only team that like were close to them was Excel, which also is a team that doesn't really play any defense and tries to like go hard on the offense.
So pretty much Fnatic and Excel both have a lot to work on leading up to this promotion relegation tournament if they want to keep their spot in the RLCS. Obviously, we can expect Team Secret and Servette not to be taking this lightly, putting in all the hours they need and screwing as much as possible against these level of teams so that they can be as prepared for this. What do we think about the Excel and Servette matchup? How do we think that one's going to go? I'm still thinking Excel's probably going to take that one. I'd say 4-2 just based off of the way Excel plays. Doesn't really match up too well against the way that Servette plays, or really anyone plays in this level of play.
Yeah, I definitely
As
think.
far as I know. Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely think Excel could take this. I wouldn't say easily, but I definitely see them winning this. You know, I think Tylacto was saying that he didn't want to face Excel in the promotion tournament.
Yeah.
So clearly they're scary. And Fnatic has just not been playing well at all. And Excel, you know, Niels and Marky and Podex, they're all very good players individually. You know, they can turn it on at any point. So to go up against three players that can really, you know, turn on the jets and start hitting shots like crazy, you don't want to really play against that, because even if one or two of them are off, the other one could be on. And, you know, we haven't seen that out of Fnatic this season, just the way they've been performing. We've seen it in the past from them, so maybe they can return to form, but I really doubt that. So I would say that Excel are going to win, and I really think it'll be Servette and Fnatic in RLRS.
Servette Fnatic, not Team Secret?
I said in the rival series.
Oh, in the rival
Rival
series, yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yeah. I could definitely see that happening as well. And then probably Excel versus Secret. How do we think that matchup will go? I'm going to call... I hope Secret wins that one, but based off of how they've mentioned they don't like playing against Excel, I feel like Excel could take it in the winners, and we'd probably see maybe a Servette Secret losers final matchup.
Yeah, that's exactly how I have the bracket going. I think Excel is just going to qualify for the winners bracket because they're like Kylacto said when he was on our show, that Excel is just a really hard team to play against. And I think that even like the other teams, Servette and Fnatic, like if they make it to the finals, they'll also have like a tough time versus Excel. I think Excel will qualify through the winners, and then Secret will drop down the lowers. Whoever they play, I feel like Secret's the better team versus both Fnatic and Servette. I think they'll qualify through the losers.
Yeah, and the main situation I could see happening if they don't qualify through losers, like if they lose the winners and then lose the losers, if they're just like so thrown off by the play that they had against Excel that when they get to the losers final, they're not used to playing against the play style of Fnatic or Servette in that losers final, and that might just throw them off enough for them to get back down to the rival series. And that'd be an unfortunate thing to see, but I feel like it all comes down to how Secret are going to play that day. And if they can really step up, take the win against Fnatic, and take a quick one against Excel, because if they can go in the winners final, I feel like they'll be fairly confident in the next season of RLCS and whoever is in the losers final gets Excel. Good luck.
Well, what you mentioned is basically the general trend of like matches between teams like at this level, like in between RLCS and RLRS,
Yeah.
is that any given day any team will beat any other team, because none of the teams are consistent enough to like be at the higher level, or else they'll be competing not in the
True.
relegation matches.
True.
So both like Team Secret and Servette, they don't really get the opportunities to play against the higher level teams besides scrims, and scrims are scrims. They're not like you don't have thousands of people watching you play.
And you don't have like everything on the line in scrims.
Exactly.
It'd be interesting if they could somehow like make a system where it simulates a tournament experience, so like a promotion relegation thing. That'd be cool to see, so that they'd be able to feel that pressure and maybe get even more experience in those scrims. But that's besides the point. So we pretty much went through our predictions and what we thought was going to happen for the RLCS Season 6 Europe Promotion Tournament, as we have it listed on Octane. You guys can check that out. I'll link it below if you want to look at the bracket yourselves and think of your own predictions for that. And we're going to move on to the North American side, where we have CLG, Allegiance, Out of Style, and FlyQuest. Anyone want to throw up a quick prediction of who's going to qualify?
NA is a little bit tougher than EU. Like, I think not actually, both are pretty tough, but at least EU, I feel like Secret and Excel are generally better than Servette and Fnatic. But for NA, I feel like any of these teams are like, when we say any team could take it on any day, it's even more so true for NA. They're just not really consistent at all. Like we saw FlyQuest, they won the RLRS, and then last week in the Astro tournament, they went out pretty early. I forget to what team. So the consistency isn't really there for NA. But I still think that FlyQuest, like, even though they didn't do too well in the tournament last week, they'll still bounce back and be able to like qualify today, or not today, this weekend. I wish it was today. I want to watch.
Oh yeah, that'd be amazing if it was today.
But at FlyQuest, and I mean, I have to give it to CLG because I'm a CLG fan. So let's go CLG. We're not gonna lose out on RLCS.
My prediction is I really want to be harsh and just go full meme and say like the opposite of me thinking that one thing as almost guaranteed on the case of EU, which is Secret. I think here I want to be harsh and say that Out of Style has no chance, and it's the only thing I'm pretty sure about. But even they showed that they like can compete at the RLCS level. They just, because of their internal struggles that we saw, especially between Epic, Johnny, and Lachinio, even before the season started, like you can just tell the synergy is not quite there. But it's not that it can't happen ever, and especially against supposedly lower tier teams, it definitely can still be enough to maybe beat these kinds of teams. So it'll be really interesting to see if a more synergistic Out of Style will show up, which will definitely be enough, in my opinion, if they do just spruce it up a bit, just tighten their play a tiny bit. I do think they have a very good shot in that case, but if not, then we could definitely see any of the other three teams make it up. It's really hard because, yeah, even CLG, as much as I also like the team itself, they're extremely inconsistent. I mean, we saw it on the last week where they 3-0'd C9 and then just got 3-0'd, and it was like just sad because you think they'd just get a game at least on the very versus G2, was it? I'm pretty sure, and yeah. And count them to do well on promotion, and we have seen Allegiance and FlyQuest on the RLRS, and they've been both doing really well. So they'll be very, very tough opponents for any of these two RLCS teams. So it's really hard to call in the end.
Yeah, we could possibly see Allegiance and FlyQuest both make it in if CLG show the inconsistency that we saw the first half of the season. But if they're able to show up like they did against Cloud9, I feel like they'll be unstoppable and will make it all the way through the winners final, sweeping the competition. Because if that CLG is the one that shows up for this promotion tournament that's coming up this weekend, they have no competition for any of the other teams that they'll be facing. Maybe FlyQuest will give them a little bit of trouble based off the caliber of play we've seen from them in the past. But as we've mentioned with all these promotion relegation tournaments, it's really going to come down to how these teams are playing that day and if they will be able to perform enough to make it into the RLCS or if they're just going to falter and fall down to the rival series. But I feel like the consensus we can make is that Out of Style is probably going to be in the rival series.
So I would like to say that I think Out of Style actually have a shot here to beat, to win a series. I don't think they'll make it all the way, but they went 0-7, but they are in the RLCS still, so they technically have a higher seed, so their match should technically be easier, even though they're against FlyQuest first, which sounds like a tough matchup because it is. But outside of scrims, Out of Style has never played FlyQuest. So you talk about, at least I'm scanning the match list right now for FlyQuest, and I don't think they've ever played a match against each other. So, these are two teams that have never played each other in a professional match before. So I really think that kind of gives an advantage to Out of Style, that there's no tape on how they've played each other before, and Out of Style need whatever advantages they can get to pull out these wins. And so if Out of Style prepare properly, I think they actually have a shot at beating FlyQuest, even though FlyQuest is on a hot streak right now, where they're winning 10 out of their last 15 matches or something like that.
Yeah, some crazy stat like that.
Well, that just
And then
what you're saying just goes back to the whole point of any team can win on any given
Yeah.
day.
Any team can win. That's what makes these so entertaining.
But also, I'm also
Can't wait
looking at
for promotion.
Allegiance, and I actually think Allegiance will stay in the rival series, just because they showed, I don't want to say lack of motivation, but maybe that's the best way to phrase it, against Space Station. They clearly were not playing the way they should have been playing in the last series of the rival series, because they had already locked up the seed that they were in, and they lost 3-0 to Space Station. And to me, you can say that, it didn't matter, so why would they even try? But you really need to take every match seriously at this level. And they're going to go up against CLG, who, to me, is a top 6 team that had a bad weekend, and maybe a couple bad weekends. So I think it's going to be a lot tougher than people give them credit for, or are giving it credit for. And I definitely think it's a complete toss-up, like you guys have been saying.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's really hard to predict matches like this because we don't see any of them compete with each other at all for months. We barely see them in Astro monthlies or possibly the Proving Grounds, but that's once or twice a month, and that's really not enough to be able to draw conclusions over who's gonna win or who's the better team.
Yeah, if there's a league that these teams played in the middle of the week where we could see more of their play style, and if they were actually consistent that many times when they're playing against all these teams in the rival series and RLCS, we'd be able to have a little bit more data. But because of how short the season is, and they only play just a few matches against their opponents, and it's not like a double round robin where we'd get more data. Instead, it's just one and done, and then they're here. They got to go into the promo relegation tournament. We'll see how they do. Throw them into the Wolves, and maybe they'll be able to survive and make it to the RLCS. But as we mentioned, it's possible for anyone to make it to the RLCS or be demoted to the rival series. And that's what makes these matches so interesting, because of how close the competition is between the top of the rival series and the bottom of the championship series, where the lines are just kind of blurred. Maybe that kind of shows the argument that there should be 10 teams in the RLCS. What do you guys think about that argument that's been going around?
We've been talking about that every episode.
I know we've been talking about it every episode.
I think all of
we
us
kind of got to bring it up on this episode.
Yeah, I think all of
because
us
it makes
are.
sense.
We
all
like 10.
I'm pretty sure all of us are
the
in favor of it.
So one thing that I would
Yeah.
that I would add to that conversation, I don't know how it fits, and I don't know if it can fit realistically with the structure of the league right now, is that in the promotion relegation tournament, you have the top the top rival series teams coming in, and you say, okay, these are the best teams in the rival series, but you don't know how well they match up against the bottom. of RLCS. And oftentimes, like if you look at FlyQuest, if I bring up their stats, like Prime Thunder scoring almost a goal per game, and then you look at in RLCS, that would be a lot, right? That's at the top.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
And so you don't know that if he was to play against the RLCS competition, would he be scoring a goal per game almost, right? So it's nearly impossible to compare stats to these teams, especially for these teams that haven't played each other, like out of style FlyQuest. And I don't think that Allegiance and CLG have played each other either, at least not recently.
Yeah.
And
None of
so
these teams have played each other in like a tournament setting.
yeah. So kind of to your point, like, about expansion or something like that, the only way that I would see like an expansion would be, change up the promotion system to like a round robin, or not a round robin. Well, yeah, I guess a round robin, where instead of playing a double in bracket, they would play every team, all the other 3 teams a bunch of times, and then the top 2 teams come out of that, or something like that.
That would make sense.
Just because it's so hard to compare these teams, you don't know what each team is bringing to the table because they've never played each other. So that's really the only thing that I could see changing up.
So would it be smart to do kind of like not the same format per se, how they had like with a rival week where they had like a bunch of best of 7s that they played, but maybe do like 2 or 3 best of 5s against the teams spread out in
There's
like
a million ways.
Period? There's so many ways that they could possibly do it.
Yeah, I think whatever they do, I think it's gonna be interesting how they choose the expansion teams.
Oh yeah,
we've talked about this before, but like I really it's most fair to just give it to the teams playing in the promotion tournament, but it's more exciting for us as viewers if they have an expansion tournament and anyone can sign up.
oh that'd be crazy.
Yeah.
Then people would complain about the consistency that you see with people that were just qualifying straight for RLCS.
Yeah.
How that used to happen. There's a bunch of different arguments that happen with that. But that pretty much wraps up our conversation about the promo relegation tournament that will be happening this weekend for North America and the Europe side across the pond. But we need to talk about the Throwdown finals, the OCE teams that made to Worlds. I'm sure all of you stayed up super late and watched those like I did. But for those of you that didn't, Chiefs and Tainted Minds will be the 2 OCE teams representing the region, making it all the way to London for the LAN that's coming up. And Chiefs were the number 1 seed as expected. Tainted Minds number 2 seed. But there was some interesting matchups that happened before that. So, Sluck, why don't you take us through the winners semifinals and the matchups that happened there?
Yeah, so Throwdown is pretty interesting. The first part wasn't interesting, where we saw the Chiefs 4-1 Tainted Minds, then 4-0 Darksided, and then 4-0 Tainted Minds again to qualify as the number 1 seed. I don't think anyone rooted or anyone even predicted against the Chiefs getting number 1 in OCE. That's exactly what they did. They had a 7-0 season and they went undefeated in the championship, which NRG tried to do, but NRG lost to G2 in the finals. But Chiefs were able to do it in OCE, undefeated season. On the other side of the bracket, Darksided played against Legacy and they found the win there, 4-2. Then Legacy dropped down to the lower bracket, and interestingly enough, that Legacy was I think after that they were just sort of not just sort of gave up, it seemed, because they didn't play that well at all, and they played against Tainted Minds in the first round of losers, and they just got knocked out 4-0 in a sweep, which is pretty surprising, to be honest, because I think a lot of people had Legacy as one of the better teams, and
yeah, they expected Legacy to qualify instead of Tainted Minds. And looking at the games for that series, we saw that Tainted Minds won 6-2 the first game, 4-0 the second game, 2-1 the third game. So they kept it a lot closer there, but the final game was 3-1. So it wasn't as close as it was expected.
The total series goals was 15-4, which is which a huge difference for a whole series. Meanwhile, when Legacy played Darksided, the series goal difference was 13 for Darksided and 9 for Legacy, and that's only 4 goals. So they had a much closer series versus Darksided. It's just they sort of just fell apart after the loss, and they weren't able to do anything in the losers bracket. But good props to Tainted Minds. They showed that they are still one of the better teams in OCE, which many people had doubts of because they didn't have a good Open Series run
Yeah.
last month, and they also didn't have that good of a run in this OCE championship. They went 4-3 in league play with a record of 13-13. But yeah, they beat Legacy in the first round losers, and then in the finals, 7-game series, they won against Darksided. This is, I think, even last season in season 4 in the losers bracket, it was, well, back then Tainted Minds were Pale Horse, and back then Darksided was also Jam Gaming, and it was the same exact losers bracket matchup, and Tainted Minds were able to win it out again. Unfortunately, Dumbo was once again unable to make it to Worlds.
I know, that was so heart-wrenching. It was so close too, because Darkside were up like 3-1, right? And then Tainted Minds brought it all the way back to that final game 7. And then I think they won it in overtime. Maybe they didn't. Let's check the
They
game.
won 2.
They didn't win. They won 2-0. Okay, I think one of those games went to overtime or something
After
like that.
it was 3-1 for Darksided, Tainted Mind just shut out Darksided on the remaining games to just go 4-3 and qualify. Like, personally, I'm slightly surprised. I feel on paper either Legacy or Darksided would have been a better team. But I mean, Tainted Mind showed up under pressure, to qualify for the World Championship, and that's what matters at the end of the day. And I mean, that'll matter even more coming into the World Championship because, I mean, if they showed up under pressure, LAN will be even more pressure.
Yeah.
Right? So I mean, it's still that probably better than that, even though this team, which I wasn't expecting or even thought as good as the other teams, if they are better under pressure, then that's what matters, and they'll definitely a worthy number 2 seed for OC. Now, the really interesting thing will be to see if this time finally will we see second seed OC taking a game or a series even.
Oh yeah.
Another team, which I'm hoping they will, but it'll still be really tough. I still think there's a big gap between Chiefs and the number 2 OC team.
Yeah, especially they showed that gap in the whole league play, going 7-0, getting 21-5 for their game wins, 80% game win percentage. Like, that's the most any team has really dominated. Chiefs just blew up
really,
this season.
The gap widened. Like last season, there was like almost a meme that Chiefs really didn't play as well as they could have, because I mean, I guess it just didn't count for much or something. But now, I mean, either they just suddenly care about league play a lot, or it just they improved exponentially from all the international events they had access to later on, or just by themselves. It's actually really impressive how dominant they were on league play and on the playoffs. It's amazing to see.
I think someone mentioned, I think it was Dover. He mentioned, he's a RLO guy. He mentioned that it was Chiefs' 11th major win in OCE.
Yeah,
And I think that's like 11 out of 12.
that's dynasty level.
That's
at this
something.
point.
I think that's something that like a lot of people overlook. I think I've said this in the past on Full Throttle, but I definitely think it's something that a lot of people overlook from NA and EU, and they go and they look at OCE and they say, oh well, the region is weak, so 7-0, undefeated through the playoffs, which has never happened in any region before until Chiefs did it. Not just the 7-0, but through the playoffs as well. That's never happened. But there you see a lot of people commenting on OCE saying that the region is weak, so that discounts the Chiefs' wins because the region is weak. But if you go back and you look at dominant teams in history, flip side, iBuyPower, Kings of Urban, a few big examples of dominant teams in weak regions, right? Because early on, there were a lot of weak teams, and these teams dominated it, and that's why you saw Markey and Cookser put up like 1 million goals in Season 1. And so if you are saying that the Chiefs have it easy, then flip side, Kings of Urban, iBuyPower, they had it easy in the early seasons because they got it. They just picked up the game and it hit them and they knew what to do. So you really have to look at it for what it is, that the Chiefs are doing something that we've never seen before, and that's dominate a region for an extended period of time, longer than Gale Force has been dominating EU. And if you actually look at their match list, and I have it open in front of me, so they're 13-0 in their last 13 games, and then they lost 1-2 against Darksided. They lost 1-2 against Tainted Minds. They lost 1-2 against Lupdex. So their only losses in the past 20 games are best of 5 or best of 3s, right? So, and the best of 3s are often, they often allow for more upsets just because of the nature of them. There's less games that you have to win, so there's more chances that something goes wrong for the better team.
Yeah, we've always heard that argument where best of 3s aren't the best way to judge how well a team can fare against another team, just because there's like a 30% chance for an upset. I think that's what the stat was, somewhere around that mark for upsets to happen. We obviously saw that at the DreamHack Leipzig. So for them to be able to be so consistent for so long and dominate so much, I'm expecting even bigger things from them this World Championship, and maybe they'll be the first OCE team to make it to day 3 or get into that top 4. I really hope they do well, but there's so many good teams that they're going to have to face off against, especially this time around. The competition, I feel, has improved even more so than last season.
Yeah, we should take a look at like the first round matchups for the OC teams. So we got Chiefs versus Evil Geniuses and Tainted Minds versus Complexity. I definitely think Chiefs versus Evil Geniuses is a match that they can win. Like, Chiefs showed that they can compete with G2, took them to 5 games, took Cloud9 to 5 games, right? And then they beat NRG. Like, those are like the top 3 teams that are coming into this RLCS right now. And so they basically have to beat the 4th place team, and they've proven that they can beat better teams than that, or like take them to close games. So that should definitely be a match that we should watch out for, and that OCE can take. And then after that, the winner of that will have to play Gale Force, which I don't think Chiefs will be able to match the Gale Force's offense. But on the other side, Tainted Minds versus Complexity. That's also, I feel like that's one that Tainted Minds can win, because Complexity they're a solid team. They're really good on like lands, like we saw them make it to the finals last season. But they just have like this tendency to be like very inconsistent. Like we saw them during the regional championships. They were just like not on the same page for like any of them, and they didn't look that good at all. So I mean, realistically, I don't think Tainted Minds can take that series. I think regardless of how Complexity show up, they'll take the series.
Oh yeah,
but that can
maybe a game though. That'll be a game, like the place to start.
I think maybe it could go to 5 games either. Still, if Complexity aren't very like taking Tainted Minds very seriously and they just show up, so we'll see that.
Yeah, only time will tell what happens for the OC region once they get to the World Championship. And it's great to see Chiefs just continue to dominate the scene. And even though they've been so dominant before, I don't really feel like the other teams in OCE have yet like quite caught up to their level. Do you guys agree with that?
There's like 2 tiers in OCE sort of, and I think that like the first tier is like very much like on their own level. I think most people like you'd group the first tier as Chiefs, Tainted Minds, Darksided, and Legacy, and those 4 teams are just, I feel like, way above every other team.
I mean, I'd go one step further, and I'd say that there's the Chiefs tier and the rest
Okay.
tier.
Yeah, I guess.
That too.
3 tiers: Chiefs, Tainted Minds, Darksided, Legacy, and then everyone else.
I think that's a
Yeah,
better
okay,
assessment,
yeah.
in my opinion, because it's just like they've just been so dominant. I was like thinking, and like I realized the only major tournament that they lost was the only time where they did not have an organization backing them, which was on Throwdown Season 3 when they were still named Billy Fan Club.
Oh, Billy's Fan Club.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just, I guess as long as they have an orb behind them, they'll just continue dominating OC for the foreseeable future, and it'll be like, obviously there will be a time where there will be a team that'll make them lose a major tournament, but I don't think that time is coming anytime soon. They've just been so dominant, like single oceanic tournament, that it'll be a major upset whenever it finally happens and another team takes the throne.
Maybe the biggest thing that we would need to see for the other OCE teams to really get some big improvement is them somehow participating in more international tournaments against the top teams and getting that experience that the Chiefs already have, so that they could not just learn from the Chiefs, but learn from those players and then try and counter the play style of the Chiefs so that they could get to the same level as them.
I do think Chiefs benefited a bit from from having that extra tournament presence, E-League. It's just even another opportunity to scrim against high-level teams, just another opportunity to show to be under pressure against the big teams. It's just such valuable experience that really only them can get right now, and it's not super easily transferable to the other teams, it feels, because it just seems that the gap has widened even further between Chiefs and the other teams. So now it feels that they haven't even harder time keeping up. So maybe you're right. I think if there were more opportunities for tournaments where Oceanic teams could join, there maybe would see the other teams catch up to Chiefs themselves, and maybe even on the world stage to the rest of the team.
Yeah, that'd be great to see for the other teams to get that more experience. And also, they'll probably get a lot more with the Gfinity Australia that's going on.
Yeah. That's also a big point. You're right. Although we don't really know which teams.
We only know one team, and that's Chiefs.
Yeah,
that is assuming they go with their main roster,
true.
right? Because there is a chance that they might not go with their.
Well,
main
I feel
roster.
there's outside of Throwdown, there's really not that many events anymore in OCA, so I feel like the Chiefs will want to play that. That's gonna be a premier event,
but
at least in it's different for. It's different for EU because the RLCS and other big events have a bigger prize pool, so the top tier players don't really want to focus on that, even though we saw Vitality would. We'll talk about that later. But for OCE, I think the Gfinity prize pool might be the same exact prize pool as the Throwdown, or maybe even more. It depends on how much they want to throw in. But I think it's gonna be a bigger prize pool
focus
and
bigger prize pool than typical.
Yeah, exactly.
The small tournaments that go throughout the year that they have, so they get more competition
on it. That's why the OC players will want to focus on it.
Yeah, that'd be good for OC as well, because I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the prize pool for OC did not get a raise last season, right?
No.
So maybe it'll with Gfinity joining, that'll be some competition to RLCS itself, so it'll incentivize a bigger prize pool in OC, and who knows, with bigger prize pools, more professionalism, more practice, and so better teams in Oceania.
And I definitely agree with that. You definitely have to consider money is the motivator, and the amount of time you have to dedicate now to be among the best players, to be among the elite, is a lot. And for the top team in OC to only get $8,000 split between 3 players, and then a percentage of that goes to your org if that's in your contract, that's not a lot of money. That's a couple thousand for 6 months of work. I mean, to me, that would not be enough for me to put 1,500 hours every season into the game, especially if you're going to school or you're working or you have family that's doubting your career choice. So I think they need to push a bunch of money into OCE to promote competition in that region.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's hope that the Gfinity Australia series isn't on Facebook. That would be great.
But I definitely think the Gfinity in Australia is a good thing.
Yeah. I think that one's going to be on Twitch. As far as I think Paz was saying something about that. We could see a change if contracts, get negotiated for them to be on Facebook.
The fact that they specifically separated Gfinity Australia when they announced that it was going to be on Facebook, the UK one, I'm pretty sure that will not be on Facebook regardless. It could be on Mixer or Stream.me, but not Facebook.
The Australian partners are smarter, and they know that they want their stuff to be on Twitch.
But it'll be really interesting to see.
Yeah, they want the viewership.
Also interesting to see if maybe one of the new orgs like Ground Zero and even Sydney Roar, which apparently is like a sports magazine or something, if they're gonna maybe acquire any of the pre-existent
Oh wait,
down
that's one of the
RLCS
weird
teams.
things, right? Because there's 2 Sydney teams and 2 Melbourne teams,
True.
right?
Yeah, it's weird.
It's
It's they're pulling an Overwatch
I
League
feel
with
like
the 2 San Francisco or whatever teams they are.
I feel like
So
remember when the Adelaide Football Club partnered with Legacy, and then
oh
most people
yeah,
thought
that
that
was
Gfinity Australia would pick up the Adelaide like Crows team as one of their teams, but I mean that obviously didn't happen.
Yeah,
But
there's still a lot more information to come out for the Gfinity Australia, whatever the specific name is for that. Paz can
I think
obviously
it's
probably
Gfinity
tell us if
Australia,
it's
yeah.
Gfinity Australia. Okay,
I think
but
it
we
is, yeah.
do need to quickly go to the last word of the this episode of Full Throttle, just because we're getting close to or a little bit past the hour mark due to some of the technical issues we had earlier. We need to talk about the Gfinity finals for those of us who
Speaking of
didn't watch it on
Gfinity,
Facebook and didn't have a reason to. It's good to know who won that one because it was the Renault Vitality facing off against Team Envious, which didn't have the actual Envious roster. It had the just Gfinity Envious roster. So that was Waffle, Mount, and Ignite, I believe, facing off against
Yeah.
the full roster for Team Vitality. So why don't you tell us about that, Shadow?
So basically, yeah, like you said, it was a Renault Vitality victory. It was a 4-1 series. Interestingly, Envy did take the very first game, and they did it solidly enough with the trio where people thought that Envy might actually have a chance. But then Vitality just run the gauntlet and won every single game thereafter. And also surprisingly, the last 3 games all went to overtime, and Vitality took them all. So it was actually surprisingly close in the end. And I mean, I don't think anyone expected Vitality to not win the Elite Series. But also pretty sure that no one expected Envy to go as far as they did, and also no one expected them to make it as big of a fight as they did. And I just think that shows just a testament to how good Ignite is, most of all, in my opinion. We saw that with the inclusion of Ignite, the main Envy roster made it to LAN, and now with Ignite on that roster as well, they make it all the way to the finals of the Gfinity Elite Series, and even though it was a 4-1, like extremely close games overall with 3 overtimes to end it, right? I just think it shows the quality of how good it is, and I mean, there's even been talks if Ignite could have been a better rookie pickup than Justin. So I don't know if you have
we'll
anything
see at
to say
Worlds
about that. Yeah, exactly.
I feel like with that we'll have to determine who's going to be the best rookie of the season 5. If it's going to be Ignite or if it's going to be Justin, depending on how well both those teams fare.
Yeah.
Obviously, Energy has the upper hand because arguably they're the better team. I don't know what other people would say about that one, but that's a topic for another time when we get closer to the World Championships. We also have some roster updates to go through. We saw that Unilad disbanded. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, Stock?
yeah, I mean they had a pretty poor season. They finished 1-3 in their group B, and Group B was the weaker group as well. With who was there? There was Fnatic, Method, Epsilon, and Ares. Yeah, I'd say that was the weaker group because the other group had Envy, Vitality, and Excel.
And Hashtag even.
Yeah, and Hashtag. And so yeah, Unilad placed last, 1-3 in the worst group. And I mean, even like when we first heard of the team being announced, it was just a random group of players that they just picked up, and I don't think anyone really expected them to stick together. And that's exactly what we saw after the season. The team disbanded. Apparently, Speed is still staying on Unilad, and he's basically going to develop like an actual roster for next season, and like a good roster that will hopefully be able to compete even better in season 4. So yeah, nothing too surprising in the team disbanding.
Yeah. Exactly. I think they'd have to have like an amazing season to stick around regardless. They could just tell they were like basically a last minute mercenary crew just for Gfinity. So
the best way to say it.
I mean, they didn't even do that horribly poorly. They did win one series against Ares. It was a 3-2, but still they did reverse sweep Ares in the end. And so I mean, the players themselves are not that bad. It's just obviously they had to basically create out of thin air and synergize for Gfinity, and like all of them except Speed were just new to LAN. So it's way too much to ask from just a out of nothing roster, really.
I mean, they all got a lot of experience playing on LAN, so
Yeah,
that's
they
good for
did,
them.
which
So
is good.
hopefully, I mean, they might find teams going forward, or at least be like a substitute
I
for
think
other
that's
teams.
still likely, yeah, as substitutes though.
And there are some other roster moves that we saw as well that I don't know if you guys mentioned quite yet. Cheerio leaving Tinny. What do we think about that?
Oh yeah, the longest standing duo breaking up. It's so sad.
There's been
Yeah.
so many duos breaking up too. Is this like just showing how much duos aren't as favored in RLCS anymore,
think
or
it's
is it more that?
I think it's basically showing like that Rocket League's really growing, because basically these
Mhm.
people they're like friends with each other. That's why they play so long. But like
Yeah.
they're putting like potential Rocket League success over that friendship, and hopefully like
Yeah.
because they think they can make their team better by getting another player. So it just shows that like it sort of shows how Rocket League is growing, where we're in a position where these players are gonna split up if they have to and find better players, even if they've been together for so long. They'll
Mhm.
do anything necessary to be better.
Yeah, and that's really great to see from these players as well. The drive and the passion that they have, that even though they've been together with their teammate for so long, it's like, I'm sorry, bro. I got to go on to new heights and hopefully get into the RLCS sometime, because whatever we were doing wasn't working out because we aren't there ourselves. So
Yep.
we'll try something else and see if that works. We obviously saw that with Flipside dropping Marky Duda earlier in the season before
Energy
it started.
dropping Jacob.
Yeah, energy dropping Jacob. So many duos breaking up. It's the season of breakups, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And then Justin leaving out of style. Well, that wasn't really a
Wait,
duo thing,
whoa.
but
That's not
Hey,
that was like they were together for one season.
I know.
That's not
I was
a duo.
making a joke, okay, guys?
Okay.
guys? Anyway, pretty much wraps up the last word. We do have one last thing that was just announced today, which is trying to make sure I pronounce this right. It's the Ballistics Brawl that's happening it's a $3,500 prize pool that has 4 qualifiers for it. And the top 2 from each of those qualifiers make it to the final tournament, where I think they compete for the $3,500. I don't know all the details specifically about that. I haven't done too much research yet. But here's the link for that for any of you EU brethren that are still listening in and want to check that out. It's awesome that we're finally getting some more EU tournaments.
Yeah, I can explain it more or less because I was looking. So it's kind of like, just think of it as like the EU Thing Open Cup. So it's going to be 4 weekly cups with a 500 prize pool each. And they said that it was going to be like with points that you'd get, qualifier points that you'd get each weekly. But apparently it's going to be the top 2 that just qualify to the playoffs. That part I don't get. It's been sort of messy, the messaging, but I'm sure it'll be sorted out in the end. But there'll be a playoff in the end. It'll be $1,500 US dollars for the playoffs, and it'll be the top 8 teams. So it's basically just the EU version of Thing Open, which is awesome to see. And I just have one thing to say: EU tournaments, we got a new one.
It's about time.
It's been a long time coming. I mean, it has been somewhat. I mean, I understand why, but it's still somewhat depressing to see so many NA focused tournaments. I mean, Rival just made their new monthly. Then Astro came back with even more money. We also had a Thing Open previously mentioned, and there was just like a lot of tournaments and recurring tournaments too, I might add, with all those monthlies, while EU had Gfinity. Yeah, EU had like Gfinity, which was fair, but I mean, that was it.
It's
And
not
when
a high
we
stakes
didn't have,
tournament.
and then when we don't have Gfinity, we had nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like, if Gfinity didn't decide to do the winter series or the spring series, or I don't even know what they're calling it anymore, but
Something
if they didn't-
serious.
Yeah, if they didn't do those, we'd literally have nothing at this point.
Yeah.
So it's really, really good to see a brand new tournament, and I know the players are excited about this, so it should be great in the end.
Yeah, and hopefully they broadcast all of it so we can watch it and see like all the drama between the
Yeah, I'm pretty
teams
sure
and trying
they
to get the
are
top 2 and
planning.
everything. And I think if one team gets in the top 2, like the first qualifier they play, they can't play the rest of them, which makes sense. That's how the qualifiers happen.
Yeah, that bit has like I said, it's been messy because even like the main website said it was supposed to be 8 weeks, but apparently it's only for sort of messy on that side. But it's fine. Like I said, it's just
as long as they're doing something.
What matters, yeah, it's a new tournament. I'm okay with that.
It's expected to be messy because it's an EU tournament, so like.
And on that note.
No, it's all good. It's a new tournament, and I'm happy for all the youth players to have a tournament for them.
All right, I think.
Yes,
we
on the
covered
same
all the
Dexy?
topics. I think Dexy's good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Dexy is ready to wrap it up as much as we are. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Full Throttle, where we covered the promotion tournaments. We covered the Throwdown OCE finals, where we saw Chiefs and the Tainted Minds team make it all the way to Worlds. And we also talked about the grand finals that happened for the G50 Elite Series in the European region, where Vitality took the win, got their first big tournament win. Woo! Good job, Vitality. Was expected, but they finally managed to do that. And we talked to the last word, where we spoke about some roster changes, some speculation, Unilad disbanding, and also mentioned got to make sure I got this right, the Ballistics Brawl tournament that's happening in the European region. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will be back next week on Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Probably just find a calculator to see whatever time that is. What time is that in the European time zones again, B-Shadow?
It's 1:30 a.m. British summertime, so 2:30 a.m. for most of the rest of Europe.
Yeah, and if you guys are watching, we'll have it uploaded to our channel. We didn't get to go all the way through the Mummy Snow interview earlier due to technical difficulties, so you can find that on our YouTube channel a little bit later in the week.
Yeah, sorry for all the technical interviews. We don't really have B-Dog this week helping us out because he had a family situation that he had to deal with. So I've been doing the broadcasting, and I've not been prepared for this.
Just blame it all.
But I think we all ended up doing pretty well.
We're actually firing Slock after this. So
yeah.
Well, you can't fire me. You can't fire me. All right. Well, on that note, thanks everyone.
Thanks.